Hey church family, my name's Jacob and I'm sitting down here with Dave Mathis, and Dave and his family have been a part of Calvary for a number of years, but they've been on the mission field for several, and they are actually one of the missionary families that we support. So Dave, welcome, and could you just give us a little bit of a synopsis of kind of where you started and how you got to where you are now and what it is you do?
Yeah, we spent last 8 years in Haiti working with Reach Global in the local community in Grecier, working with church leaders, basically helping pastors be able to minister to their communities in different ways, maybe ways that they haven't thought of before. And then bringing teams over to use some of their expertises in just different ways. So we're doing that over the last 8 years, and then here recently things have just gotten increasingly less safe in Haiti, but also some things that have gone on with our team that were just, personal issues kind of brought us back from the field back home. I was closing things up in Haiti and getting ready to return here. At that time, that's when the war began in the Ukraine. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, I'd sure like to go over there and see what's going on and help out our crisis response division. They went over there, thought they would spend 2 weeks, and ended up spending 7 weeks. And they just needed somebody to come and help kind of give them a little bit of rest. They hadn't planned to be there that long. In a kind of a joint venture between our divisions, we had worked many times with crisis response because we've had earthquakes in Haiti and hurricanes and such. So the director there said, hey, yeah, we'd love to have you come and spend some time there and just actually host the first team that were from the United States that were coming to help, just from a church in Iowa.
What is that like? You have, wife and kids, and you make the decision to go to Ukraine, to Poland, to help serve refugees and that kind of stuff. But obviously knowing that there is war, there is, casualties and that kind of stuff. What's the decision process for you in that and your family as you're going to somewhere where there is extreme conflict?
Honestly, for us, there was really not much of a second guessing. I mean, I think we had sorted a lot of that out when we lived in Haiti. What it's like to be in a place that any day can go into a chaotic situation. So when that offer, for me to go, it wasn't like we had to sit down and mull over it a whole lot. When there are people that need to hear the gospel, that overrides I'm not saying we just do any crazy thing, but any kind of risky thing that you may go through, God's going to help you through it. I know the Ukraine and Poland have very low percentage of Christians, and people need to hear the gospel. And if we can support those pastors there that are they'll be there once I'm gone. If we could help them and support them in this really rough time that they're going through, then it's worth it.
I love that mindset of going and caring for the pastors who are going to be there when you leave. What is something that you saw God doing while you were serving over in Poland? In Ukraine?
I see God pulling the Polish church to ask those really tough questions about who's my brother, who's my neighbor. The pastor who was there is a very young guy, just began the pastor in December after another pastor had passed away. And he was confronted with some ladies from the church. They're saying, why are we helping these Ukrainians? They sided with the Nazis during World War II. And he was shocked, and he said, but we're changing history, and the gospel is changing history. They've connected these two churches now that used to didn't have any really association with each other, and now they're building these bonds and stuff. And what we know is that all ministry happens out of relationship. When the relationship is not there, those ministries don't grow. So actually the Ukrainian church is influencing the Polish church and vice versa. And so that was really super cool to see those things happening and people being stretched and uncomfortable history being brought up but dealt with in a way that was healthy.
Yeah. Is there something that was, a golden idol or an idol that you guys had to say no to be able to answer the call to go?
The idol, oftentimes that us as Westerners get tripped up by, and we're no different than anybody else, is this very aversion to anything unsafe, or even our family. We were very lucky that our parents were very encouraging to us, but it's not always the fact. A lot of times family members are the biggest hurdle for people to go overseas, because they're like, oh no, you're not going to be safe. It's not going to, I don't want you to do that. But people need to hear the gospel, and so we have to die to that idol of safety. And I think it goes to the very core of your belief, and it's not an easy one to realize that even if God calls on you or calls on your life, that heaven is better than here. It is to be in the presence of the Lord, and in a beautiful place. And it's not going to be a boring hereafter. So so it does go to a very core place in the way we believe. I think.
Dave, just on behalf of Calvary, thank you for answering that call and for going and making Jesus known to all nations, whether it's South America or Central America, where you were first called, and then you've have found yourself in Eastern Europe. And so we're grateful for you and your family and just your willingness to answer that call. And thanks for sharing your story today.
Well, thank you, and thank all of you who support us and pray for us, because that's another big piece of it, is that you do have people praying for you when you are going into places that are risky or not as safe as we'd like them to be. So that is one of the things that sustains us for sure. So thanks, Calvary.